Parent 1 and Parent 2 legislation is an interesting solution for equity?
It is more likely to cause more confusion.
The American Religious Town Hall meeting is now in session.
Welcome, friends, to the American Religious Town Hall meeting, where the discussion of religious, political, and social issues is meant to promote the cause of religious freedom and to help us better understand each other. And now, here's your host and moderator, Pastor Jerry Lutz.
Thank you, and I too would like to welcome you to today's program. I'm so very glad you've tuned in. You heard opening remarks, but you haven't met any of the panelists yet, and so let's do that right now before we get into our discussion. Let's begin with the gentleman to my right.
Hi, I'm Carl Troval. I'm the Richard J. Dinda Professor of Lutheran Identity and Mission at Concordia University in Austin, Texas.
I'm Bishop Michael Olson, and I serve as the Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth, Texas.
My name is Mel Robeck. I'm an Assemblies of God minister. I am Senior Professor of Church History and Ecumenics and Special Assistant to the President for Ecumenical Relations at Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena, California.
Hi, I'm Tony Matthews, and I serve as Senior Pastor at North Garland Baptist Fellowship in Garland, Texas.
I'm Andrea Luxton. I'm President of Andrews University in Berrien Springs, Michigan, which is affiliated with the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Dan Levin. I serve as the Senior Rabbi at Temple Bethel in Boca Raton, Florida.
All right, thank you very much, and for everyone for being here today. Looking forward to this discussion. From the opening remarks, you might be wondering, what is this all about, Parent 1, Parent 2? Well, here we go. Recent legislation in France has forced schools to use the term Parent 1 and Parent 2 on official forms used with families. They say this is to ensure that children whose parents may be in a same-sex relationship do not feel discriminated against. They argue that to speak of a mother and father is too limiting, and this action will ensure all family units are seen and treated equally. Opponents of the legislation call it frightening and based on politically correct thinking that did not correspond to reality. One lawmaker claims the new law was a fantasy and would deconstruct the balance of society. Another group of opponents focuses on the terms Parent 1 and Parent 2, saying those terms alone impose a hierarchy on the family and could cause problems in the family with deciding who is Parent 1 and who is Parent 2. 95% of all legal union in France are between a man and a woman. The panel is asked today to consider at least these following questions. First of all, do you think Parent 1 and Parent 2 legislation solves a problem or causes one? Next question, does the Bible or Torah have anything to say about families that would be relevant to this conversation? And then finally, what are the family values that you consider most important for strengthening society? That is our subject for today. Let's go back now to the panelists who helped us to begin the program. And with that, we go to Dr. Luxton. Tell us a little bit more on your thoughts on this interesting subject.
Yes, when I first read about this legislation, I was intrigued, and I thought, well, all of the frustration about this, is it really worth it? Does it really matter what's on a form? And when you think about it, I can understand why it is important on both sides of the issue. I understand the equity issue, but I really have to agree that it is political correctness gone a little bit crazy here. And then I also thought, you know, I think this is a little bit caught up in bureaucracy too. Why can't you not just have on a form parents? Why does it have to be one? And why does it have to be even be split? So I mean, I think we're caught up a little bit of bureaucracy here as well. But besides that, I think would be another solution. But besides all of that, I do think that at a values level, this is a challenge to the whole nature of family. As soon as you kind of call people Parent 1, Parent 2, what does it do to the essence of what makes a family a family? And only last week we were talking about the value of family on this show and how important that is to society and how important people feel it is to them. So I think the importance of a government recognizing that family is core and the relationships in that family are core to the success of a society is somehow missed when we try and make this kind of legislation.
All right, thank you very much. And now, Bishop Olson, your thoughts on the subject.
Well,
more of your thoughts, I should say.
I think there's a lot to this, and sometimes it's one of those things like on a form that is easy to overlook, and sometimes the importance of it is easy to overlook. I think what's happening here is entering into law and in legal designation, we are in a sense saying that gender is entirely irrelevant to relationship within the family. Even with adoption, there's an adopted mother, an adopted father. Even with regard to in vitro fertilization, there are donations that are marked father or mother. And I think that is a way that we understand ourselves based in nature and makes a transfer to law. Now we have law, in a sense, imposing itself where rightly the question comes up, well, and what is this relationship based as far as parent one and parent two? It's entirely a legal construct, and if it's just arbitrary, why number them at all? And if it's not arbitrary, then in what is it anchored? And so I think there's a lot of problems with it, and I think it's going to add to greater confusion with self-identification and with relationships.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Robick, welcome to the program.
Thank
What are
you.
your thoughts, please?
If you want my honest opinion,
Yes, I do.
I think it's the tail that wags the dog.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
I mean, just look at the numbers that they give us. 95% of all family relationships. Let's see, what is it? 95% of all legal unions in
unions.
France are between a man and a woman. So that means that the 5% are going to be governing the 95% by making them take on to themselves a number, 1 or 2. Now the question is, who's going to be number 1? Is it going to be me or is it going to be my wife? It could be either one, and it doesn't really matter in a real sense, you know, except that it does in a way, because we have different roles within the family that we fulfill. I can't bear children, you know. I do everything else that a woman can do. No, but seriously, I think it's really important for us to not to further confuse an already confused situation when we talk about families, especially families that are made up of all different kinds of situations. And, you know, I think the bishop has already laid out a few of those, and I think that there are more that we could talk about. But my sense is that to the numbering of people, there is no end.
And it does create that hierarchy.
It does create a hierarchy. There's no question about it. I mean, if you're trying to get rid of hierarchy, this is not the way to go.
All right, thank you. Dr. Matthews, welcome to the program. What are your thoughts, please?
Yes, I don't think that it actually causes the problem. I think it exposes it for me. Because those who, for myself, I love everyone and I treat people with dignity and respect. I just think this exposes a biblical challenge with the entire same-sex marriage issue. A mother and a father, that's God's idea, and if people would accept that, you wouldn't be grappling with parent one or parent two. Now that's biblical. From a practical standpoint, what if the child or the children who have a mother and a father, and that's the language they use, are you going to force them to use parent one and parent two on the form? So it's a big can of worms. When I read this, I said, wow. I said, wow. Parent one and parent two. I think this is another case of something that I think is respectfully incorrect. I don't think it's God's idea, and God loves everyone. But I think this is what we see when we don't subscribe to what I think is God's ideal biblically.
All right, thank you. Dr. Trovol and then Rabbi Levin. Dr. Trovol.
Relationships are gendered, and how, I mean, in a number of ways, right? And there are gay marriages, and I'm sure in France this is partly what it drives this terminology. I think what I don't understand is why it couldn't even just be left blank for people to self-identify with how they want to self-identify. I know, Michael, you've talked about the problems with self-identification, but nevertheless, I mean, I'm on our institutional research board at Concordia, and so we have people who have surveys that they have a question that says, your brother or sister. Well, they're stepbrothers and stepsisters. I mean, I was thinking about, well, what about someone who's staying with their grandma? Is a mother and grandmother? I mean, I think rather parent one and parent two, let's have people at least describe what relationship they understand it to be. I get it, they're trying to be non-discriminatory, but I agree that I think the tail's wagging the dog here.
All right, thank you. And now, Rabbi Levin, your comments, please.
With respect, I differ with my colleagues fundamentally. In the book of Exodus, my favorite chapter is chapter 19. Chapter 20 is the Ten Commandments. It's the one time when the Holy One spoke to the entire people all together at once. So I'm always interested in what was going on in chapter 19 because something different must have been there. And what the text describes is how the entirety community of Israel came together to be one with each other. And that huge web of oneness is what allowed the God who is one to speak to us. So whenever there is a group that is marginalized, you are defeating what was trying to be attempted to be created at Sinai. And so when somebody's family is constituted differently because their parental structure is not with a man or a woman, but with some other combination, what you're inherently saying is your family is less than, you are outside. And when you say to somebody they are outside, then what you are really doing is defeating the kind of unity and oneness that I think holy societies try to create. I'm reminded of a teaching in Judaism that says that the home is a mikdash ma'at. It's a small temple. And however a family is constructed, it needs the state's support to say that that is still a holy instrument. It's like that line in Lilo and Stitch, the great Disney movie, where the little space creature says, Ohana means family. It is small and broken, but still good. And I think that when we orient ourselves to exclude different kinds of family structures, we defeat the purposes that we're trying to come together to create.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Bishop Olson.
I would disagree slightly, because then why limit it to two? And why limit it at all with a parental relationship at all? I mean, do people have to have parents? Isn't there something inherently hierarchical that we're imposing upon that relationship? I mean, what about, I mean, there, you know, we can call on unity to the point where there's just homogeneity and there's no distinction whatsoever, and it bleaches out the distinctions and the diversity within as well. And I just think that, for example, parent one, parent two, it doesn't imply that there's a relationship between parent one, parent two, that it's entirely the relationship with child, whatever level. Mother, father at least implies that there is a relationship between the parents, whatever that is, broken or limited, or even mother, mother, or father, father, if you want to get through that. Why limit it to one? You know, and I think there has to be some sort of a referent, and I think that reference nature.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Luxton.
Yeah, I think we need to recognize that if a society has recognized different types of unions, then just from that perspective, they then have to validate that within the other regulations that follow. So whether or not we agree with same-sex relationships or marriages and so on, probably becomes irrelevant within the context of a society kind of saying what is the best way to go here, I think. So I think that's one thing. So, but to me, the dehumanizing thing is actually just using one and two. That's why I feel that if you are talking about a family, you need to leave room for that family to identify who are the people here who are responsible. Maybe it's guardians.
And that term is often used, yeah.
Yeah,
But
maybe
it would
it's
be
a-
guardian 1 or guardian 2.
Or maybe it's a grandparent. Well, I would just, the one or two.
Progenitor 1, progenitor 2. Or,
No,
Why not have one or two?
Yeah.
No, I think
Well,
it's the
without the
human.
numbers.
It's the human bit that I think is missing out of here. That's my biggest problem. It somehow dehumanizes when you start numbering people off. So I just think we have to find a way to recognize that this family unit is extremely important to validate as a unit.
Dr. Robeck.
Yeah, I have a car and I have a key fob, and the key fob identifies me as driver number 1, and my wife has a key fob that identifies her as driver number 2.
Is that in terms of quality of driving? Or
No,
we
it
won't
has
get into that.
nothing to
No.
do with that, no. But it does identify who is going to have the seat at a particular place when they drive, for instance. Or it keeps track of you for insurance purposes if you're into that particular thing. Let me be the devil here for a moment and say, why is this any different from the raising the question about whether or not you're a citizen on our next census? Huh? Isn't that? Yeah. Nobody wants to say anything now. It's just I kind of like, where did
Well,
that
they're
go?
thinking about it.
Where did that come?
We're probably going to get to it
I
here
do
in
think
a
I'm
moment.
trying to find the parallel, actually.
Yeah, but what I'm actually saying is one may be considered as parent 1, namely citizens. Parent 2 is non-citizens. And in a sense, you don't have anything, but you do have a power differential, and you do have you have political dimension that is huge. And I just wonder where the political dimension is here. And I think it is there.
What do the rest of you think about it? Dr. Matthews.
Well,
You don't have to
I
deal
said-
with the
yeah,
census, but
I just wanted to comment on or raise some additional thoughts with the 95% of those unions, male and female, and then the 5%. And we don't even know if it's 5%. It could
Yeah,
be,
sure.
it's 5% left. But
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
What is that?
something's
Yeah, what
wrong
is
with
that
that. I
5%?
mean, I think at some point we need to rethink this word discrimination and inclusiveness and being fair and accepting. I think we have to kind of rethink that. We don't want to discriminate, but wow, is the natural family, as we see it, male and female, are they being discriminated against by forcing parent 1, parent 2? A few weeks ago, we talked about the Methodist Church. With this whole issue of same-sex marriage, and I just don't want to come across as, I don't want to be perceived as being judgmental or bigoted or anything like that. It's just that it seems like something is just inherently incorrect with this parent 1 and parent 2, and I think it's going to continue to snowball into other things.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And then Rabbi Levin, did you want to make another comment?
Well, I'm struck by what Dr. Luxton said about the idea of the numbering being dehumanizing, and I'm sensitive to that. The new trend that you see is where you ask people to identify what pronouns they're comfortable using. He, his, or she, hers, and so forth. I wonder if perhaps a better way would be to allow people to self-identify how they want to be acknowledged as parents, whether it's mother or father or step-parent or grandmother or however it is that a child's being raised. I would disagree a little bit with you, Bishop, in terms of the idea that you can't whitewash parenthood. There are still children in the world, and the children are being raised by parental figures. But the nature of who those parental figures are is often quite complicated. And just because children are being raised in perhaps a different or unconventional environment doesn't mean it's bad.
Doesn't mean it's good either, though.
Oh, I think if it's filled with love, you can say it's good.
Bishop Olson, do you want to respond?
Well, no, I think you can if you do, but there's also, we're engendered beings, just as animals are. We're rational animals. We have free will, deliberative powers. We have the ability to laugh. It's a distinguishing characteristic from the animal world. But nonetheless, we are gendered beings and precisely directed towards procreation, reproduction. And even as we have souls and we have minds, our human bodies are, in a sense, designed for rationally and volitional activity, as opposed to others. So I think we can't underestimate the significance of the body, and especially gender. And I think. I don't think one has to be exclusive to articulate those differences.
Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this segment of the program, but there's more. There will be summaries in just a few moments. Before we go to the summations, I'd like for you to hear this important announcement. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Thank you, Pastor Lutz. We hope you are enjoying today's program. If you would like to learn more about the American Religious Town Hall, please visit our website at americanreligious.org. That's americanreligious.org. There you can read about the mission and history of the program, learn about the Town Hall estates, and view past programs by clicking the appropriate menu buttons. Each week, Pastor Lutz looks forward to receiving your letters. You may write to him at the address shown on your screen. Send your letters to Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. That's Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. Thank you for writing, and thank you for watching. And now, back to you, Pastor Lutz, and today's closing statements.
Thank you, Mark. And I like Mark, would suggest you go to the website, you can find there some interesting things, some archive programs from past programs we've done here on the Town Hall. You can also learn about the Town Hall estates, and I hope you'll take advantage of that. For now, we're going to go to our summation statements. Let's begin with the gentleman to my right, and that is Dr. Trovall. You're first.
Mother and father don't cover all the relationships, even prior to this current generation. It never has, and I think that leaving it blank for people to self-identify is, for me, an acceptable solution in civil society. Churches and religious communities may look at this very differently, and I respect that, and they may, but in a civil society where you have multiplicity of people, I think leaving people to self-identify is best.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Robeck, your summation, please.
I would agree with Carl on this one, that it's really important that people self-identify. And they can identify in a range of identifications. They can use a range of identifications. What I think I am most concerned about is the fact that we bend over backwards on politically correct thinking. And I think the more we do political correctness, the less freedom we actually have with respect to our own speech that is guaranteed by the Constitution.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Luxton, your summation now.
I largely agree with the last two speakers. I think in this particular case, we have to separate what our convictions may be from a moral perspective or biblical perspective, and what is best for the families and the children in this environment. And at the end of the day, you want the best thing for the families and the success of those children. And I think the self-identification about how this family unit works gives the schools, gives everyone a sense of this is the environment with which we're going to work with this family. And so I think it's got to be self-identification.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And then Rabbi Levin, your summation, please.
One of my favorite Talmudic passages says, Al tistakel b'kankan ela b'ma sheyesh bo. Don't look at the vessel, but at what it contains. And I think sometimes we become so obsessed on the nature of the vessel that we lose sight of the importance of what there is to be found therein. And I think that comes with the way that people find families structured. And I think part of what a healthy, just society does is protect the rights of the minority from the hegemony of the majority. And I find that when inclusivity is a value, it does not necessarily need to be thought of as a threat to those who are already included.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Dr. Matthews.
Okay. And I think opponents of this view should not be viewed as bigoted or discriminatory in any way. I think that the family functions best when there is a mother and a father, and those roles are distinctly defined, and we are by creation different by design, male and females. And I think the forms should stay as they are, mother and father written on those, and we show a lot of love to everybody.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Now, Bishop Olson, your summation, please.
As human beings, we are composed of body and soul, and they're an integrated whole. We require a body in order to flourish, to know each other. We know others with our bodies, and we're not simply ghosts and machines. I do think that the purpose of gathering information for the sake of government involves insurance, it involves basic rights, and as far as what is the nature of the information required or the requirement of the information for what purpose is going to depend on how one wants to structure these forms.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you all for your participation today. It's been really amazing to me, especially from time to time when we meet together like this, how interesting these subjects actually become. Sometimes you do wonder where it's going to go. But I love the diversity, I love the points of view, and you each bring from your own background, your own place where you do your work and how you're interacting with people, your unique perspective. And I really appreciate that very much. And by the way, the American Town Hall has been on the air for over 6.5 decades. When you think about that, that's an awfully long time for a program to be on the air consistently from the time of its inception. Now, some of you have been watching for about that long, and I want to respect you and say thank you for watching. I remember as a young boy, a very young boy, and I wasn't here 6.5 decades ago, but almost, watching this program on my independent channel where I grew up in Central California. And thank you to myself, even at that age, wow, this is a really different kind of an interesting program. And I hope you have found and discovered the same thing when you tuned in today. And we hope that you'll come back often. We want you to be a part of this program and feel part of the family, if you will. And I will expect and hope that you'll go to the website. If you're a faithful viewer, you'll learn more about who we are, why we are here, and what we do. And so thank you again for your cards, your letters, everything that you have said, and how you've supported the program. I will encourage you to learn more about the Town Hall Estates, because there are some interesting and wonderful services this organization provides to those who are in medical need, and in terms of their life and how they're taken care of and provided for. So please take the time to do that, and do send me a card, send me a letter, tell us what you're thinking and what you'd like for us to talk about here on this program. But for now, the chart of the American Religious Town Hall provides that Roman Catholics, Protestants, Jews, educators, and others may appear on this program and can declare their beliefs without hesitancy, and the rest of the members of the panel will uphold and guarantee that American right to all who will appear, irrespective of race or creed, so that the rest of the world can see that here in America we believe in civil and religious freedom, not only in theory but in reality. And so now, until next week at the same time and over this very same channel, the American Religious Town Hall meeting stands adjourned. And may the God of all of us bless all of you.